What did you guys think of the playoff championship? Did you like the 12 team? Do you have any? I know we said we were going to come back to this once this is once we were done. We are done now. Do you guys have any pros, cons? Give me a pro. Give me a con.
You might.
Pro. It makes the college football player longer for sure. I think that's good, and it gives opportunity for teams that have had winning records over the last few years to actually get into the playoffs and try to show their dominance. I think that's pretty dope. The con, I think the way that they set it up with the last few teams, like teams 10, 11, 12, I think that should be different. I don't think it should be the top 3 teams in the powerhouse conferences. No, I think it should be whichever team has the best record, the most points, and which has beaten, if they have a tiebreaker, have beaten each other. I think those teams should make it. I don't think it should be like how Arizona State made it, and it wasn't Alabama, right? Or Alabama was 12. Arizona State was 12.
Yeah.
Arizona State was 12, or Ohio State.
No, Ohio
State was 8.
Yeah.
Okay. There was 2 last teams that made it because of their conference.
Clemson.
And Clemson, that's right. With the ACC, right?
Yeah,
they shouldn't have been there, right? But that's kind of things that you gotta work with. But all in all, overall, I think that the college football playoff, increasing it to 12 teams, I think it was great for TV. Honestly, great for views, great for college football.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat with George. Like, I like expanding into the teams because, again, you get some of these Cinderella teams that do make a good run. I think this would have been great for a team like UCF all those years ago, or FSU, just to see, like, give them a shot. And then I think this also will avoid situations like where you get the real national champions posted on their thing and they can, like, acclaim national championship. Like, this helps eliminate a lot of that. Though, again, seeding is an issue, which, like we said, Clemson gets in because of what conference they're in. Army gets neglected. And it's like, Army was one of the best stories of the year. Like, even if they would have gotten beat in the first round, still give them that opportunity. They won their conference. They earned it. And I think to be in the college football playoffs, you should at the very least appear in your conference championship game. You should at least appear in the conference championship game or just win it outright. Because if you didn't even do all the work to get to the final game of the season, then you should not be in the playoffs at all. I don't care what the at-large, I don't care what conferences say.
I mean, that would alleviate Notre Dame then, because they don't have to do that. That was one of the things I was frustrated about, is that they're still getting the credit of the independent. That's.
But what was their record? What was their record?
Exactly.
They lost 1 game, I believe, and you're peeling hairs here because. It was, if you go by any of the major schools, it was the worst loss of the year. Yeah. They lost to Northern Illinois. So I mean, if you're gonna, I guess if I would go like a pro,
but he has a bad game though. You can't. You got to have a good season. It's a whole season. It's not just one game until the playoffs. Obviously, the playoffs is different.
Yeah. So if I would give a pro, I liked the idea of that. How, like you were kind of saying as well, it's almost kind of a little bit more like the NFL where Thanks for checking in. Yeah, so I kind of like it. It was a little bit more like the NFL, to where you can still consider. I'm just throwing a team out there, the Chiefs. You're able to lose 1 or 2 games and still be legitimately a great team. Until you get to the playoffs, and that's when it actually matters. So I like that aspect of it. That it does kind of take away a little bit that every week matters, but I do like the fact of Ohio State is a perfect example. They had a stinker of a game against Michigan, but yet they still were one of the absolute best teams in the country. So they got their redemption story and they ran through the playoffs like nobody's business. A con I would have to say would be kind of like what we were saying with the seedings. I think that I've mentioned this before. I just think that they need to establish what conferences are getting automatic buys and how they get the buys in there. I think that needs to be an established fact of which teams are actually the teams they're going to matter with.
I mean, honestly, for the buys, just give you if we're going to be this hung up on like the Power 4 conferences, just say Power 4 champions get a buy, and I think that's something.
Technically, that's kind of what they did, but then they also gave a Boise State a buy, which Boise State should have no business getting a buy, and they're not even in a considered Power 5, Power 6. I'm not even sure what power they have, but They, and the other thing, here's one thing. I'm glad I thought about that too. The one last thing I was thinking that was a con about this whole thing was the bye situation. So the team that was the at-large team that got in, they got to host a playoff game. The team that was the one that got the automatic bye, they don't get to host a playoff game. They have to go to a neutral site. That makes no sense. Yeah. Why not reward the team that got the bye for giving them a home game if you give the team that didn't make the bye an extra home game?
Yeah, that is one thing I didn't like, where we're playing all these games, the quarterfinals or the
the quarterfinals were all at neutral sites.
Yes, the semifinals should be at, because that was the one thing I did like about the old format with the college football playoff, was that, you get the 4 teams and they would play the Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl for the national championship. I like that, but then make the rest of it the quarterfinals, and then the first round, make those your home field advantage ones. I
think that's the whole point of being a higher seed, is that you get to host the game. Like that, that to me is something they should be changing on there. Right. I mean, it's not like you can't do it. It's not like there's not money in the sport, and there's not like it's not sponsored, and people are not going to pay to go to these games. I mean, every one of them are sold out. And if you're able to host it at home, that team gets extra money for their school, and it's almost a benefit for being a winner. So I think that's something they need to change as well, is figure out the higher the seed, they should host the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. I feel like whatever the higher seed is.
And I think depending on as well where, let's say it's the quarter, or let's say it's the semifinals, you got Georgia, they're the top seed next year, and then they're going to be playing Texas. I think that should be that should be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because it's again, they're the higher seed. Yeah, it's not played at Georgia's home stadium, but it's still in Georgia. They earn that right.
If it's the semifinals, sure, I could buy into that. Fine, if you want to go that route, but I just think the first 2 rounds. What's the point of getting? I know you can't say what's the point of getting a bye, but you get what I'm saying here. What's the point of getting a bye if you can't even host a damn home game? That doesn't seem very fair. It's hey, you can have more. You can host a home game, but don't be good enough to get a bye. I don't know. I don't like it. I think that was kind of a silly way to do that.
Yep. All right, playoff committee, you hearing us? That is playoff games at home. We need to adjust the seating and make Notre Dame play in a conference.
There we go. Two times this episode where we got the check, baby. Sign the check, baby. And you guys are viewing. We got 15 viewers right now, man. Hey, write in the chat, man. Let us know what you think, baby.
Yes. What are your
we can put a bow on the season. I think it was a very interesting season. There was a whole lot there was a lot of really, really good games this year. I thought this was one of the better years for college football, if I had to be honest. There was a lot of upset games. Erico, the Notre Dame game where they lost. Army was a great story. There was a lot of good stories in college football this year. Miami made a slight resurgence, and then they kind of fell off in the end. But there was a lot of good they can build on from here on out.